Hello everyone, this is Advent of Code Day 1 and I want to show how we can solve this in Golang. So let's read the first part, which we are presented with uh, two lists here, and what we want to do is we want to grab the smallest element in the first list and the smallest element in the second list and kind of create a so get the absolute distance of those two lists and then add those distances for each of the lines, and that will be the score for the part 1. So if I can explain it here, let me explain that. It will be better if I explain it in the Scavenge job. So here we have 3-4 this kind of list, and what we want to do is we want to sort this out. So hopefully that is getting printed. So then if we sort them out, so it will be 1, 2, 3, 3, 3 and 4, correct? And the second list, it will be 3, 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 9. So if you take out the differences, like the absolute difference of these two numbers, of the two, like this will be a separate list and this will be a separate list. So if we take out the differences, that will be 2. So 1 minus 3 is 2. Like absolute difference of 1 minus 3 is 2. So that will be 2 for the first element. Then 1, so 2 minus 3 is 1. 3 minus 3 will be 0. 3 minus 4, the absolute difference is 1. 3 minus 5, the absolute difference is 2. 4 minus 9, the absolute difference is 5. So if we add all of the numbers in this list, we'll get 2 plus 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 plus 5 is 11. And that is what is expected in this first part. That is how the approach is for the part 1. So let's quickly go to the solution and then I'll explain this in detail. So first we will create a function called read file bytes that will just uh, give us the slices of bytes from the actual path. We use os.read file and then we'll pass the sample.txt file in the input of this function and then create read file line, and this will basically split the file bytes from a new line character and will create a slices of strings and then append each line to it and then get the list of strings as lines. Then for the part 1, what we'll do is we will create a function called split list that will take in lines as a list of strings, and those we will sort it out and then create total score for this. So the split list will be a function that will take in lines as a list of strings and return two lists of integers. So for this we'll iterate over each line and then split the line with the three spaces, and then with those characters we will convert those first and the second character into numbers so that we will have two lists, so then we will append the numbers into two lists so that we will have two lists in that, and then for the part 1 we basically sort it out and then append create the add it to the numbers total score, and that's how we get the total score for the part 1. And for the part 2 we need to create a few a different approach, that is split list and map, that will uh, basically do the same things, but we will have iterate over the lines and then we'll split them, but we'll also keep track of the instances of that number for that number 1 and number 2, and then in the create number map, what we'll do is we will take the first list and iterate over all the numbers in the first list and append, create, like, multiply the number one and then map two, that will be the occurrences of that number, and then multiply those together, we'll get the total score. So for part two, we'll basically split list and map and get the list one and the map of the second list. So that's created, and then you can see that that is working fine for this part two as well. So that's how we do this mapping. So in Golang, what we do is we first read the file. So I've stored it. So let me take the example of sample. So I've stored this file in here. So this is the input file. So we take the input path of that file and we read files from the bytes. So this is another function that I wrote, which will be will just read the file bytes and using the os.read file, which will return the slices of bytes. So that is the function for this. And what we want to do here is we want to split the bytes on the new line character. So we will have line by line slices of of that string. It will be byte, so we need to cast that in that line into string. So we do bytes dot split. We take the slices of bytes, the entire file byte, and use the separator as new line character. And yeah, if that line is not empty, which is H space for the last line, and we'll append that line converted into string into the lines which is initialized as empty lists of strings. So that will give us all the list, give us all the lines individually. So if I try to print this line, and I'll just comment out the part 2 here for a moment. So you can see this is what it has given us. It is a list of strings, and so this will be a single list. And if okay, that's not a little clear here. Let me do for line in range line. So you can see the first line is 3 and 4. Line 1 is 4 and 3, 2, 5, 1, 3, 9, so on. So that is a list of strings that we have used. And thereafter, what we do is once we have the line, we call this pattern function, which takes in all the line list of lines, and we split the list. So we take one list and we give out two lists, which are converted into integers as well. So what we want to do here is, so we have lines, and this is what a line looks like. So it is 3 followed by 3 spaces and the next number. So what we want to have is we want to have list with 3 comma 4. So how we do it is, so we take the first line, this is the first line, and we split that line into 3 spaces. So in this numbers we will have 3 comma 4 as the number, and this will be list, this will be string, right? And we need to convert them into integers. So we convert each of the numbers into integers and append them into the respective list. So first number will be into the first list and the second number will be in the second list. So that's how we get list 1 and list 2. So that is the part one here. And yeah, once we have two lists, we basically sort that list of integers for both the lists, and we basically grab those individual lists. So I'm just iterating over one of the lists, and I index that element. This is match.absolute, which takes the absolute differences of two numbers, and there's no function for Golang to uh, do the absolute sum on integers. So I have to convert the integer. This will be an integer, right? So integer into float and then back to integer. So this is one edge case here. So list 1 of I minus list 2 of I. So this two list will have the same number of elements. So that's why I can use it with any of the lists, and that won't give me any index error. So I'm using I as a reference from the first list and grabbing both the lists and getting the absolute difference of both the numbers. Once we have that, we append it to the total score, which is initialized to 0, and that's how we get the total score for the part 1. Once we have part 1, so you can see this ended with 11, which is the expected result for part 11, and I did my input and that is working fine. So let's move into part 2, which is similar. So uh, part 2, I again take the lines, which is a list of strings, that is line by line uh, strings. But here I do a little differently because I just don't want two lists. I want a list and a map of integers. So split list and map. What it does is it takes in all the lines and splits them um, as usual. But instead of creating two lists, I am creating two lists here. But down the line, I don't use the second list and the first map. I just use the first list and the second map. So what this map is, right? So I iterate over all the lines, and this is the line. So the line will have this is a similar flow here. It will have 3 followed by 3 spaces and 4. So that's how we split that line into the numbers. So this will have numbers into string representation of 3, 4, and that's how we grab the numbers of the first index and convert them into integer. So and then append that number for the list one here. So for map, what we so let's first look into the part two actual question instead of jumping right into the solution. So part two, what it expects is it takes so we have the same input, but what we want to do now is we want to grab the number in the left list, the first list, and multiply that with the number of times that number has appeared in the second list. So in this case, let's take for 3, and 3 has appeared 1, 2, 3 times. So that will be 3 times 3. Okay, let's explain it here. So so now here we don't want sorting to be done because we just want the numbers in this list. So this is 3. Uh, we now want to count how many numbers of times 3 has appeared in the list. So we'll say 3 has appeared 1, 2, and 3. Right, so we'll call it 3. We need to multiply those two numbers and we will get 9. Similarly, the next number in the first list is 4. It appears only once in the second list, so it will be 1, which will be 4. And the next number is 2. It has not appeared in the second list, so it is 0, which will be the 0. And the fourth number is 1, which again has not appeared in the second list, so it will be 0. And the fifth and the sixth numbers are we have already computed. It is 9, 3 again has appeared in 3 times, so 9 as well. So 9 plus 9 plus 9 plus 4, which is 31. So that is the final score for this. So here what we can improve here is, instead of iterating over the list, we can create a set. We don't have sets in Golang, but we can create a list which doesn't have duplicate elements, but that is a little expensive to do here. We'll stick with the normal approach. So in let's go into the code. So for part 2, what we want to do is, we have a similar approach here as well. So we'll take in the list of integers, a list of strings which is separated by new lines. So we'll grab so the lines will have, so lines is a list of strings which is the strings of each individual line, and we have created a separate function called split list and map. So it takes in the list of strings lines, and what it gives out is two lists of integers and two maps of integers with integers. So we iterate over all the lines and we'll do the splitting for that line on the three spaces, and after we split them in three spaces, we get the first number and the second number. We convert those numbers into integers and append them into the respective list, list 1 and list 2. The only difference I have here is I create the two maps, list 1 counts and list 2 counts, which will be a map of integers and integers. What it will store is the number on the left, so the number. So one will be the first to the left side list, and the value for that key will be the number of times that has appeared. So num1, we are not using this, we can skip this, but list2, that's what we want here, right? So we want to have how many times 4 has appeared in this list, which is 0, which is 1. So we'll append num2 plus 1 and similar. So yeah, that's how we get the map of second list, and we will have the key as the number itself and the value as the number of occurrences that number has in that list. So this is part 2. So we get list 1 and map of 2. So remember what we have written from this uh, function, which is two lists and two maps. The first one first list and the second as map 1 and map 2. We don't want list 2, we don't want map 1, we just want list 1 and map of 2. So in this create number map, I pass in list 1 and map 2, and what I do here is I iterate over all the numbers in the list 1 and find that number occurrences as indexing that. So since this is a map, I can index the number 1, so number from the list 1, and get its occurrence here, because the value for this will be the occurrences for that number in that list. And yeah, we have multiplied that and we append that to the score and we get the similarity score, which is what we expected here. We get the similarity score as 31. So yeah, that is from part 2 as well. That was day 1 from adventofcode 2024. So that's it from Advent of Code day 1. Let me know if you have any better solutions in the comments. We'll see you in the day 2. Thank you.